Hello, everybody, and welcome to the LTH product briefing. I'm delighted today to be joined by Matt Patel, COO and co-founder of Malbek, a CLM platform that many of you have no doubt heard about. Welcome, Matt.
Thank you so much, Nikki. Glad to be here.
Matt, I'm curious to know a little bit more about your background as a founder and also what led you to found Malbek.
So my background has been enterprise software. From college onwards, I've been a technical software developer for the first few years. In 2006, I joined a company that had an older CLM product, and that was my first exposure to CLM technology. I implemented for a lot of large Fortune 50, Fortune 500 global customers. So learned a lot about CLM, what it's trying to do, where it's failing, what customers are trying to do. When that company got acquired, it was a perfect opportunity for myself and my two other co-founders. We were trying to figure this out. Should we do a new startup? Should we build a CLM on our own? Fun fact is we were actually in the Bay Area. I had ordered a bottle of Argentinian Malbec, and a couple of bottles later, we were convinced that this is the right thing to do. And we started building our company. I used the name mostly as a placeholder, but kind of worked. It resonated. It changed the C to a K, and off we go.
I love the origin story, especially the wine bottle I can see in the background. It takes courage, especially as someone who has not founded a company before, to move into the space, in particular CLM. So what was it that caused you to launch specifically a CLM platform? Was there a particular problem that you thought you could solve?
My other co-founder, Hemant, at the previous company, there was a huge audit. He was tasked with finding contracts and providing data out of it, and they had no system. He spent many days and weeks dealing with a mess of SharePoint repository and documents that just were not organized. So he lived through the pain as an end user. I lived through the pain as a vendor. And after trying for 10 years, I have an opportunity to try to do this on my own, along with folks that we worked with, and they're amazing at building platforms. So it was one of those unsolved challenges. And we knew there was a problem in the market because more mature solutions were very comprehensive, feature rich, but very hard to set up, implement, maintain, and use. And the newer products coming to the market were amazing in terms of UI, UX, but for the most part in the early days, they were targeted towards a legal audience. They were designed for contract creation and authoring. We knew from the last 10 years before that it's not a legal problem. It's an enterprise issue to manage contracts. So we wanted to design something that was for legal, but also sales, procurement, finance, and all the departments.
Interesting. So Malbec is for everyone to use at a business.
Exactly. We've designed it in a modular fashion. You can roll out for each department, each contract type, each region if you're a global company. But then we connect at the platform level. We wanted to build a platform with integrations to all of the different solutions out of the box with our connectors so that each customer doesn't have to use APIs and build those bridges. So Salesforce, HubSpot, Microsoft Dynamics, Microsoft Office, including Word and email, Slack, NetSuite, Coupa, OneTrust, I can keep going, but so many applications we have to integrate because if I'm a procurement professional or if I'm a sales user, I'm in Coupa or a supplier solution or Salesforce or a CRM CPQ solution. I don't want to leave and go log into a legal system. Right? That was our intent, to keep them where they like to be.
It's very clever that interoperability is often a real feature. I think it would be helpful for us to be able to take a look at this modular solution and get a sense for what Malbec looks like. Can you show it to us?
Yes. So when a user logs in, they will have a home page with a lot of widgets, dashboards, and analytics that give you contract data in different ways, depending on how you have configured and what are the most important aspects of the contracts. And let's first tackle two admin use cases. I'm going to go ahead and build a template, which is a contract type for a specific sales agreement workflow. So this screen is showing me as an admin, a set of areas to work with. So I've got to work with the document here if I have my own paper. If it's a third-party paper, you don't have to drop in a document. But in the sales use case, of course, I will have a specific template. So I'm going to go ahead and use one of my sample sales agreement templates, which I'm uploading. And that brings in the document with all the language that I can start to tag. On the right side is my flow of building out this contract type contract workflow. First thing I want to do is tag the fields. So, this language has a name of the customer here. I'm going to mark that with one of my data fields, counterparty name. I have a date of execution. Let's go ahead and tag that field with effective date.
Are you able to add custom fields that are not in that drop-down menu as well?
Yes, and we call them configured fields. So while Malbek has many out-of-the-box fields, every customer of ours will add dozens or hundreds of their own fields specific to their business. Yes.
Okay.
And then you can drop them into the document wherever you have, pricing or payment terms or liability or notification for termination period. Any of the data values that you have, you can add it to this document. I can tag clauses, so that if I wanted this customer illicit activity to be an optional clause. And what I mean by that is dynamically building out the draft agreement based on sales requesting this contract, where the flag in Salesforce, let's say illicit activity, true or false. If it's true, include this clause. If it's false, don't include it. Oftentimes in a manual world, you'll have a template and you'll probably highlight this thing with a comment on the right saying, keep this, if so, otherwise remove it. We don't need to do all of that. We can configure it, and any data value or a question that you can ask the user, it will drive the contract assembly and automatically include or exclude that clause. I can tag it for e-sign by dropping in signature tags. We work with DocuSign, we work with Adobe Sign, all out of the box integrations. Then you can build a workflow. So what happens when this sales agreement is requested from Salesforce? So I have a couple of workflows. Let's look at one of them. This is a standard workflow, maybe that I have set up in the system, and looks like it first goes to legal for approval. And if the payment terms are non-standard, meaning they're not 30 days, then I need finance to approve it. Otherwise, just notify the requester we're good and we move on. But what if I have a business requirement that says, this is not enough. I need, maybe after finance, if it's a non-standard payment term, I need CEO to approve it. So I can go to Charlie, who's my CEO, and I can add that. If I want someone after all of this, maybe data privacy team, I can add that workflow.
Once you build this, the workflow has been automated.
This is it. And then I can activate and I can start using this for contract requests.
So what you've effectively done is build a contract template and then also build an automated workflow in 2 minutes.
Yes, 2 minutes now, but obviously I would certainly need more time to finish up tagging the payment terms, product table. So yeah, this could be 2 minutes, it could be 20 minutes, but it's definitely not 2 days or 2 weeks or 2 months that it used to take many years ago.
That's great.
Yeah, it is. Also, when you have to make changes as your business changes, you don't have to rebuild it. You can come in, edit, go to the workflow. And as I just did, I added 2 more nodes. I can remove them. I can add more. It's like building a Visio diagram. Next use case is AI. So to use AI in Malbek with all of the pre-trained clauses and terms, when you have, let's say, a new contract, a third-party paper, or even if you're importing legacy contracts, we have bulk extraction and bulk import functionality. On a third-party paper, it's good to know what's in the document, but then is it good or bad? Meaning, let AI scan a third-party document and tell me what's the liability, what's the indemnification, is there a termination for convenience? But once it tells me all of that, compare it with the playbook to indicate where I'm violating the rules. Meaning, if there is a termination for convenience, it's good to know, but we don't want that. I want playbook to tell me, Matt, you got a problem with this third-party contract because our playbook says you only want termination for cause. So how do you build that logic? Let's go to administration again. I'll go to settings and I will go ahead and build out my lifecycle playbook. And what I'm doing here is I want to set up, I have an MSA playbook, a supplier playbook, NDA. You can have different playbooks because every agreement type has its own AI guidance. So I want to build a new playbook. Let's take my sales template. So if this is my sales template, my ideal document that has all of the language that I want in a sales agreement, well, let's use that to build out my playbook. So whatever clauses I have in that sales template are good. Whatever I don't have in that sales template are ones I don't want. So and that's exactly what AI just did in less than 10 seconds.
This is a cool screen. I like the way the information is presented.
Right. Very easy to consume. There's a lot of information here, but it's presented in a clean white space UI. And you can see that these are the clauses I need in my sales because they existed in my ideal sales contract that I just uploaded. These are the ones I don't want. So I don't want an acceptance criteria when I'm selling to a customer. But if the playbook didn't pick it up correctly, I can just move it saying, no, I do want acceptance criteria, right? So now you can make adjustments. I can say for assignment, I want to make sure there's an assignment clause in the sales contract whenever I read and apply the playbook. But I also want to make sure it's my own language, which is this.
And then you can edit it there if you need to.
Yes, I can absolutely edit and do whatever. I can also add some options, alternates, variants. So that's how you build a playbook. And then you can use this when you're reviewing a third-party paper, and it'll tell you what's wrong with it. And if you agree with the playbook guidance, Malbek will automatically redline that document for you so you can send it back to your counterpart.
So it effectively runs the playbook against the incoming contract.
Exactly. And to build the playbook is that simple.
That's great.
Okay, now let's switch to the end user side. Let's say I'm a contract business user, a sales user, a procurement user, and a contract has come back. I'm in negotiation with a customer. So let's take this one. This one has come back from counterparty red lines and it's in progress. I can preview this document and I see a bunch of red lines. And we have full browser editing, redlining, commenting capabilities, but we also have a tight integration with Microsoft Word on a Mac or on Windows. It'll download and I can edit in Word on my laptop. And when I make changes there, it'll automatically sync back with the application, even the data changes.
It's very helpful.
So here, on the right side, if I'm seeing payment terms at 60, I can edit that to some of the other values if I want. But before I edit, I can also analyze to see 60 days is good or bad.
And where is it drawing that information from? From all of the contracts that are in the system?
All of similar type. So 60 days is a good payment term for sales, but maybe bad for procurement. Procurement may want 120 days, right? So they're buying and they're paying. And then liability clause, which is redlined here with 2x. I can go in here and let's talk a little bit about how can ChatGPT help me as a business user who's not a lawyer. And liability clause is always an interesting one. Why is it all caps? Why is it written so that I have to read and figure out what exactly it means? Because this, except for, means that all this language applies except for all of these cases where it's uncapped, or maybe it's capped at 2x. In this case. So there's a different cap for these versus these three scenarios. So ChatGPT can come to the rescue and we put a simple option. Rewrite this in plain English for me. I don't understand. Please tell me what it means.
That's one of my favorite use cases for generative AI. And it takes out the all caps. I love it.
Yeah, so I can now read and see that, all right, damages cap is based on my past 12 months of revenue and it's 2 times that. If I want to change it, I can even tell it to replace it with a uncapped or a higher cap, and it'll give me the language. And if I want to see the language in red lines, I can check compare, and it'll give me the language in red lines, so I can inject that back in and send it right back to the counterpart. The last use case, which is integration. So when it comes to integrations, we have a lot of productized integrations with other applications. I'm going to go ahead and switch out of Malbek and change to Salesforce. As a sales user, I'm living in CRMs, HubSpot, Microsoft Dynamics, Salesforce. All three we integrate with. And Salesforce may be set up in many unique ways for every customer, but they can enable the Malbek UI to show the same dashboard, the search capabilities, the reporting, everything in Malbek is available to Sally Sales so that I can see which contracts that I'm dealing with are in approvals, who they're waiting on, and then different widgets.
I mean, it really does look like Malbek inside of Salesforce. Is that how all of your integrations work?
Some do, some don't. It depends on whether the tool like Salesforce allows UI embedding. Not every tool allows that. So in that case, it may be a pop-out or another tab that opens. It depends on the technology. Some are asynchronous, like our OneTrust compliance check. You don't have to you just click a button on a contract in Malbek. It sends the counterparty details and comes back with a report.
Well, this is very clever, Matt. The way that all of the components work together to create these intuitive user workflows, whether you're on the administrative side or on the user side, is impressive.
Yeah, and that was, as I mentioned, our vision was to please both sides, not just the end users, but also keeping life easy for admins and the different personas to keep them where they belong, right? Where they want to be. If I'm a sales user and I have a quote and it's approved with all these terms, don't make me fill out an intake form in a legal solution. Don't make me send an email. So I can go ahead and say, I want an MSA or a proposal or an SOW. Next, it populates all of my defaults, clauses and all the terms from Salesforce are automatically brought in, including the quote items, create. And the next thing I know, I have a contract at my fingertips that I can send right over to my customer without having to wait for legal because it's a pre-approved template. So here's my order form and here's my agreement.
Yeah, it really takes some of the lift off of legal.
That's right.
Matt, thank you so much for being here on the LTH product briefing. And for everyone watching, thank you for joining us.